My name is Chimoge. You can also call me Moge. You can also call me, those are the basic ones. Chimoge is the given name. Moge, to be short, is a shorter form of the given name that I like better. But just 'cause I like it better doesn't mean it's my name most exactly. But, hopefully in the future the name gets changed. The naming ceremony. Anyway, welcome. Welcome. Let's take this off. Let's go this direction. It's a bad direction to go. I'm going to do a ball bed. Oh. Anyway, welcome to Inquiria. This is where I begin to have my ideas, basically. You'll see this segment, anger, which I just come out and go, Wah! I just gotta feel let's go towards the goal, let's see what's going on. And then eventually you'll see the final form of my ideas. I've emphasized music a lot, but really I'm going for I want to say all my ideas. Like any idea I put out, like the best version of it will be here. You'll see it progress throughout the factory. It's a media company of mine, OZ Bang. Check it out. Anyway, Kabunam Noga. What did I just say? Greetings, my patrilineage and all of their connections. It's all about connections exactly. Here we go. See, language is broken, so even if I consult people, in the backyard of my village or whatever, it could be wrong. Because a lot of people think because they sat down on the ground next to where they thought their grandmother was born, they know how to speak. But same time, if I consult the internet, it could be wrong. But piece it all together, I pray I get something. Ogo, Zukugo, Ugo, apparently the same thing, overseer. Anyway, basically that thing you call it, subsequently you call it. Anyway, basically I'm just calling my whole bloodline to pray. I don't pray by myself. Anyway, let's put up a short. Well, let me not call it too much. But Kabrinam Nogo. Greetings to my patrilineage and all of the people who connect to them and the bloodline that form me. Anyway, welcome to my registered viewer. This is the only instrument I got today other than the ones on my body. Anyway, came up here to just... Why? Because I've been studying that show My Hero Academia. So it's a manga that also has an anime. Both recently ended. The manga ended in 2024. The anime ended in 2025 at some point. Hello, hi. I'll read comments at my discretion. Thank you very much. Like, share, subscribe. Anyway, I see some hearts. Thank you for all the love. So anyway, I've never read the manga, but I watched the anime. I watched a number of episodes of it, but I hadn't watched any in quite a few years. Let me say that, just because of time. And then also I'm trying to protect my energy a bit more. A lot of the shows we watch, they show you traumatic things, and we don't really think about it much because we see more traumatic things in real life. You see, there's a common practice of videotaping crime and just showing it out there. Obviously, if a crime is caught in real time, it should be documented, but the video shouldn't just be shown willy-nilly. At the same time, the video should not be suppressed. There's a fine line, no one's getting it right. But anyway, because we see that so much, when you see animated things, because this is an animated show, say you see an animated deletion, people don't think much of it, but that's something. And one thing to consider is a lot of times that animated deletion could be a depiction of a deletion that happened in real life in the past, you see. So that could, repropagate the idea of the deletion, traumatize people. So anyway, that's something to think about. But also thinking about fan culture and also some of the stories told within that story. And I just think there's work to be done. Anyway, I'm just thinking what to comment. I put up a couple shorts about that already on Chimoge's comments. I'm going to put out more. Because there's a certain, how do I say in English? There's a certain, let me call it shorts posting cycle I'm trying to follow. I paused it just because I wanted to, as part of that cycle, to make comments about My Hero Academia, and particularly the story of one character named Toga. But I found I didn't know enough because I hadn't completed it, so I was reading some summaries online of the last 2 seasons. Really, I did the last 4 because I think I'd seen through like season 6, but I couldn't clearly remember past season 4, so I just went and watched that. And then I was reading up on the summary of the character Toga. So now I think I have enough to comment. I've given out a partial comment. I'll give out the full comment, and then that'll be a basic one, and then I'll do a more normal one. That's part of the Equence Alma segment, the extension. Same thing. Check out that segment. What I have up of it so far. We spin. We go like that. So basically, I'm gonna do something more typical because for that segment, I don't want to limit myself too much, but I think the way I'm commenting now, because it's not how I expect it, it's not right now how I want to typically comment. Anyway, there's that. I think this got me thinking. There's a lot of stories I want to tell, but I want them to be useful. And I'm thinking a lot about the concept of the so-called fictional story. I think that's a questionable concept. Obviously, it's possible to say something that's not true. But if you're telling a story, there's a limit to how false the story can be. Let me explain that. So, it's impossible to create something out of nothing, right? That also applies to ideas. So if you're telling a story, and you're not just showing a video of what happened or whatever, that's an idea you're putting out there, right? So you can't create the idea out of nothing. The idea has to be created based off of stuff that you've seen before or that some entity has encountered before. Otherwise, there's no way for the mind to perceive it. So given that, when it comes to a lot of fictional stories, we have to keep in mind that at least the components of the story have happened somewhere, somehow, right? The question is whether or not the whole thing as shown happened in that way in its entirety. But the reason I bring this up is you have to be responsible when telling your stories. You can't just say, oh, this is fake. You have to figure out, okay, I spat this thing out. Where did this thing happen? What does it model? And also, how does it resonate in people's minds? What effect is it having on them? You can't just spit something out and say, I just wanted to show you the refuse of my mind. That's what a lot of so-called storytellers do today. That culture has to end. And to that end, we have to get rid of this aspect of modern fan culture where people get lost in the story. You know, you watched... what am I gonna use? I'm just gonna say it because it's popular. Again, I'm not saying this story is without value, but I'm just gonna say it because it's popular. You watch Spider-Man, for example. Everyone knows Spider-Man. If you don't, don't feel bad. It's just the vast majority of people know Spider-Man. Anyway, you watch Spider-Man. Now you're obsessed with Spider-Man. You dress up in the Spider-Man suit every day. You're climbing up the walls yourself. That's not appropriate. You actually have to still be a functioning person. So a lot of that kind of stuff happens. I don't think that's good. Anyway. Speaking of Spider-Man, I'll say 2 things. I've been thinking of Spider-Man a lot lately and studying it. And I want to say these 2 things about it. There's more. 1, the archetype that Spider-Man most embodies is the thing Obusy, right? Obusy, O-B-A-S-Y, well, that's one way to spell it, but I guess the way that more people who are alive today will recognize is O-B-A-S-I. Another way to name that thing is Endless, and its symbol is that which you call the infinity symbol. And what is that about? That's because that thing is constantly fighting evil. So it's talking about how it just goes on and on. It's also constantly working, right? So how did I learn about this thing? First heard that word as a name. It's a name it's not like everyone has it, but it's a well-known name, I would say, among people in the group that I've been classified as since birth. I'll say Igbo people, right? So that's people in what is now a large section of what is now called southeastern Nigeria. Look it up. The name, well, you can look at Igbo people. I've talked about that before. Again, that's the reference point for my language as well. But then you also have the name Obasi, Obasi. According to research I've done, it like most people don't really know what it means, but it's associated with manhood somehow, right? And the thing Obasi itself is a man. Another way of saying that is it is more masculine than it is feminine, it is more energetic than it is sensitive. And again, this is a thing that exists all throughout existence. It manifests as people. It also manifests as things. It manifests as pieces of nature, things of that nature. Anyway, so what am I saying? Based upon my research, both looking at physical and spiritual sources, the character Spider-Man most embodies, again, there's other stuff in there, but it most embodies the archetype Obasi. And an example of that is how Spider-Man is always fighting evil, even when it hurts himself, right? Because Obasi's not always positive, okay? Obasi's a great thing. If you know the spice we call cinnamon, that's a form of Obasi. It's good for your health. I recommend eating it somehow. But the downside of Obasi is sometimes Obasi's fighting so much evil that evil embodies himself and he collapses. So if you look at Spider-Man, he doesn't have very many healthy relationships. No one understands him. On the myth, he kind of just shrinks in front of people, but he's always there to tap the villain. So anyway, that's point one. I would not just become a cop and then like when he's like I don't know, he just has some extra ability to apprehend a criminal, like, or if he doesn't like the cops, maybe he doesn't like the politics, he could become a private eye, he work with it. Like it doesn't, I mean, because it's like obviously there's a lot of fun aspects to the Spider-Man stories, but if you just look at it, it doesn't make any sense. The biggest reason it doesn't make any sense is how he destroys his life to be Spider-Man. Just saw the number 1247. The only reason it could potentially make sense is because in that world there's an argument that with his powers he could be captured by the government, experimented on. I don't know, that one's borderline. But to be fair, that is a legitimate concern within the constraints of the world you've seen. And another way of saying that is that there's a lot of cases of people who are different and have exceptional abilities being abused by people in power. So that's why you can't totally just throw out what's been presented. At the same time, it's still ridiculous. It's a stretch. Then I'm not really going to get into the scientific aspect of it, because obviously that's far-fetched, but that's not really the point. I'll just leave it like that. You can think about that. I mean, it gives you something to think about. Oh, weird coincidence. But anyway. But yeah, let me get back to my point. Welcome. This is an English segment. I think I put symbols for Ekwensu in the title because I'm thinking a lot about what we call cartoons, which is a form of Ekwensu, right? Manga anime is a subset of that as well, that art form. So anyway, Spider-Man 1, the archetype it most embodies is Obasi. I'll talk about that more in the future. And part of the reason I'm going into things like that is I want to begin to put out my own personality archetypes to help people learn more about themselves and others, and also just so we can develop more personality archetypes, as a category of life. I don't think there's enough out there. That's why a lot of people are lost. So that's one thing. The second thing about Spider-Man that I want to emphasize, based upon my research that I'm thinking about, is that how do I say this? I don't think people think enough about the real world implications of the villains depicted in Spider-Man. And by that I mean a lot of those villains are actually a mix of good and bad. So when they're presented like that going up against Spider-Man, you have to think, one, what kind of evil was going on in society at the time that led to that being depicted? Because I think oftentimes a villain manifests evil going on in society at the time. And then secondly, given that people are actually captivated by the villain, what positive traits are people constantly lying about, you see? Because let's be honest, evil people are not actually good to look at, right? So people, for example, are like, oh, I want to see Kingpin on screen, I want to see Kingpin. Do you really want to see Kingpin, or do you want to see like the good half of him? You understand what I'm saying? Because if Kingpin is on there, say he's stealing, does anyone really want to just watch theft? No. But you want to watch a guy get up and give an inspiring speech, yeah. Why not just depict that and be honest about that? And be honest about the fact that maybe you're scared of people who are charismatic. Why is that? Do you have, some sort of personality issue? Anyway, I'll leave it at that. But I'm going to do a deeper dive on Spider-Man. I've talked about superheroes a bit. Check out my video on Chimoge's comments about The Dark Knight. I want to talk about it more. Really, because obviously I talk a lot about metaphysics. The things I've looked at the most when drawing upon, or let me say it like this, the things I've looked at the most when advancing my ideas about metaphysics and putting out new ideas are mythology, like Greek and Roman mythology. I'll call it quote unquote African culture. Again, it's a crazy category, but let's say African spirituality and other things. So if you're looking at stuff like what people call Ifa, so-called traditional Igbo culture, traditional Yoruba culture, which they lump in with Ifa, voodoo, things like that, people give it that category. It's kind of crazy. It's not one thing. But that, Greek and Roman mythology, Norse mythology, and then also superhero stories. Of course, those things all mix. I've been looking at that as well as nature, and then my own life, things of that nature. So I look at all that stuff. Yeah, let me take a pause. But anyway. Yeah, but anyway, my whole point in bringing all that up is that I want to advance discussions about those things. I want the good aspects of those things to be advanced, the bad aspects to go away, and then I want to begin my discussion in a way that people understand. Because I feel like I'm coming from on high with this agenda, this information. I don't want people to get lost. And I want people to be entertained, but I also want people to find it practical. And then together with that, I want to balance me moving forward discussion with those things, with me talking about things that I know people immediately want to hear. Like, for example, soccer. Like, okay, because obviously all those things, have a connection. For example, I want to talk about the metaphysics behind soccer so we can prove it. So instead of just watching people play and think that, that's like a morning television show, people use it to resolve disputes. No more war. Well, you know what I mean. Like, no more evil war. Let's say that. Because you can declare war and you don't actually have to touch people. It could just be to just make a point. But the things people do now, where we're hearing about acts of evil being committed all over the globe in the name of war, I think that's a travesty. Why not just play soccer 10 times? That energy's out of you. You see what I mean? Among other things. But anyway, let's put up another short. I want to do things like, and I've already been doing it, check it out on Moge. I've been thinking of exactly where to put it, but my initial reaction to things goes on Moge. So like, I just watched some soccer highlights. Hey, here are the results. Arsenal beat Chelsea 3-2 in the Carabao Cup. I put that up. I want to put that there. So I know people want to see that. Um, well, I know people will want to see that. Just because people want to see it doesn't mean you always see the views right away, because it can kind of get lost in the swamp. But you can't say there's not a lot of people who are wondering what the latest English soccer result was, or even just related to superhero movies, maybe saying, hey, this TV show about superheroes was released, just noting things like that. So I want to balance that kind of stuff with the deeper stuff, like, hey, there's this thing called Obussy. What does that mean? I have to basically parent you because I got that from way far away. And then there's some stuff in the middle, like, hey, I've made some observations about nature. So I want to layer that all together. So anyway, I've been thinking about that. And then the process of that, there's things that I need to create to help, like my overall writing template I've been working on. I've been looking at my relation to writing. Let's say this, I still find that the difficulty sneaks up on me, because obviously I'm a good writer, but it's just about appreciating how difficult it is for myself, so that I get out of my habit of thinking, oh, I'm not done yet, I haven't done anything. No, you wrote for like an hour, and then a lot of thinking went into that, Yeah. I think a better way of saying that is I'm trying to better document the thinking that goes into my writing, Yeah. And then I've also figured out, I'll put this out now just to help anyone. I think people have a habit of not publishing their writing until they get to their biggest, most in-depth writing piece, which is actually called Ogun, the God of War. So you show people the God of War, then you show people the components. No. You're supposed to start in this world, advance until you go to the outer limits, and then show people the God of War. I find that's more helpful. So it's better to start with your skeleton and then add to your skeleton piece by piece. So think about that. Let me fill that example out more. Say you're writing an essay that has 5 parts. First, write the outline, the 5-part outline, then publish that. Then add more detail to part 1, publish that, so on until you have the full 5-part essay. Then you publish that. That's your Ogun. It's more gratifying. I found that's more gratifying. Anyway, I think I'll get out of here. Thank you very much. Please buy my art. Please also buy my merchandise. Please also subscribe. I'm going to highlight my Patreon subscription. And of course, these things exist on all 6 networks. Check it out. Please also donate. You can donate on PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App. PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App. For PayPal and Venmo, it's at OZBenwuku, at capital OZI, capital IBENWKU. And then Cash App is the same thing, but instead of an at, it's a $sign. And yeah, and also share this with everyone. Anyway, I just wanted to get out here and let off some steam, anger. I hope that was helpful. Let me put up one more short. And thank you very much. See you soon. Goodbye.